Greetings, citizens of Nerdtropolis. Sean Todd here, the mayor of Nerdtropolis, and on this episode of Real Insights, my guest is Robert Schwartzman, the director of The Good Life. Hello, Robert. It's great to meet you, and congratulations on a fantastic film.
Thank you. That's when you make a movie and then you put it out. I know there's part of this is for us, like we're making it, Brett, the writer, our actor, like we're all experiencing it. And we feel happy we got to make this movie. The next like phase is like, okay, it's coming out. It's out there. It's like it takes on like another life. And it's really, it feels good when someone says they liked it. So
yeah, it's always great. You want to keep building up being such a great filmmaker and you keep elevating yourself. And I'm serious, you did knock it out of the park with this one. I really loved it. I love how The Good Half explores all the heavy themes. I need to know, was there something specifically that drew you to this story, and how did this movie land in your lap? Because obviously it was written by someone else, and it's a great story.
So I've been directing movies. I was doing music for a long time, touring and making albums, and then I pushed pause and I was like, I want to try to put a movie together independently. Sort of like, hey, I've put music together, I've put albums together on my own. I'm going to try to do that on the film side. And then 2015, I made a movie called Dreamland. It came out in 2016. That was my first go at it, but it got me really, the kind of the train left the station and I was just kind of like, let's go again. But so I had been making these other movies, and Brett Ryland really liked the movies I'd made in the past, the writer of The Good Half. He wrote a film that based on certain experiences in his life. He lost his mom to cancer and had to go back to Cleveland, where he's from, to kind of put the pieces back together. And he wrote this great heartfelt script based on like personal experiences. I had experiences of loss of my parent. My dad passed away of a similar thing, same exact form of cancer. And so I felt connected to what the character was experiencing on his journey through overcoming or dealing with processing grief and loss, how the family was reacting or dealing with it or not dealing with it or whatever that is, felt, very relatable. And so I got kind of sucked in from, really good, a well-crafted story end to end, great characters end to end, very grounded subject matter, but with the right kind of comedy that I like, situational kind of comedy that I connect to. And I felt there was enough in there in the material that I could find my own kind of voice as a filmmaker in it to tell a story that I felt was in my head based on material that Brett had written.
Yeah, and you just spoke about it, the characters in this film, which is, the film has a fantastic cast. When I spoke to David Arquette, I kind of told him, on paper, it's very random, the cast, the names, because it's great talent, but obviously it all works out. You got the best in this. So can you talk about how'd you go about casting these roles, and what was it like working with such a diverse group of talented actors?
I mean, I think I spent a lot of time in the casting process. I'm mostly drawn to like the look of someone's look or the way they just talk. Like I watch a lot of interviews with actors to really decide if maybe they're right for a part, or the feeling I get from an actor just feels like it works. I can place that person in my mind in this character. So it all makes sense in my mind a lot of the times as I'm casting, just because these are people that just kind of pop for me. They just like stick out. So on this movie for The Good Half specifically, we had started at the end of 2019, and then like the whole world shut down, the pandemic hit. We transferred the process into like onto Zooms and like figuring out the industry, as you remember, on so many levels, the whole world on so many levels just froze. So you didn't know if like productions were going on. There was all these new rules about how to do things on set. So I didn't really know where we fit in anymore with the film, but we just kind of slow and steadily kept it moving and started getting the script out. I started meeting with actors on Zoom and getting to know people remotely, which was not the best, but it was like the best we could do, obviously. And what I loved is just like the people we met with are the people that really liked the material. So as I was affected by it, other people really liked it too. And then in talking about like the style, the vision, the whatever, people start to, build a profile on how they're going to approach this project and if they want to do it. But yeah, like I just, at the end of the day, we had stops and starts on this movie over the course of like 4 years, really, or 2.5 years before we started shooting, where it's like it's going to be this actor, it's not. It's going to be this cast, it's not. And then you kind of wipe the slate clean and start again. And like, yeah, like you lose someone along the way at the last second. It's heartbreaking, but you just kind of, go roll up your sleeves and go. You move on to the next like actor and try to find someone else. It's hard, you make an offer to someone, you wait for a month, you get a no, you start all over again. It's like a lot of you get excited and then you just kind of like stop all over again. So just getting something made is like a strange, crazy thing that it's actually made now. It's like always have to stop and remember, like, whoa, what a journey it was to just get to this point. And then this next journey of releasing it. But yeah, I really admire, like, I really love the work of everyone in this film. And everyone's from different walks of life, as you said, but bringing them all together, that's what makes this movie, I think, it either works or doesn't work. It's like, were we successful in our decision making to this point? And I think, people seem to really like seeing them in these roles. Like Matt Walsh gives us a more emotional side of what we know is a very comedically like tuned actor. David makes you wonder, like Rick is a very complex guy who you wonder, like, am I supposed to like him? Am I not supposed to like him? He's a mixed bag. And I think David can find that mixed bagginess, and like his looks and his responses can be so unpredictable that I think it's so satisfying. Brittany Snow has such great range, and I think she really has been able to perform on these more dramatic leaning roles. She can cry on cue. She can really get emotional on cue if the character needs it. She can lean into some of these more comedic moments, some of these more hard to reach on the surface, like character. Playing Nick's older sister, I really love their dynamic. I really bought into their dynamic. Nick's a true performer. He's a showman. He's a very internal guy. He's a very mysterious guy, very complicated, interesting performance of what it means to search in yourself for what it means to get through grief. Elisabeth Shue, like icon, incredible, a light, a great laugh, a great feeling of just really shining a light on this story, on this character. Because you really want to look back on this loss of the mother and really go, oh man, like she really was so important to this guy. Like she brought such fun to his life. And Alex Shipp continues the fun in his life. Like he found his mom, like the energy of their relationship echoes and brings life back into his moment of loss and suffering of loss at this moment in his life. So it's all designed to be what we need it to be. And like all we can hope for is it works with the viewer.
Yeah, and I'm excited. Like everyone you just listed did such a great job. I kind of want to start off with Nick Jonas, who delivers a great performance as Ren. And this might be a hot take, but I really think Nick Jonas is one of the most underrated actors. I don't think we see enough of him too, so people aren't so aware of how great he is. I want to see much more from him. Was there any like? Can you walk us through the collaboration process with Nick? Like, what did he bring to the character Ren, and how did he kind of approach his character? Because he did a really great job.
Yeah, he that was the big thing was just like getting to, I think, what's hard, I think, and I see as actors or anybody, the more busy you get, the more disciplined you have to be with actually making time for the material, like really being committed. When you're doing a lot of stuff, you have to really find that you have to commit, and I think, and find the balance, right? It's the balance, because it's, if you're growing in popularity and there's a demand out there, you have to be very committed. And when it comes to these like roles you're playing, and Nick was was there to really be this character. He's like, I want to go for it. I want to dig in. This is the kind of stuff I want to be doing. I really liked that this would be the first chance for him to like lead a film. I thought that would be an exciting thing to experience with him. We have a history together of like 16 years of knowing each other through music. And I thought that gave us a great jumping off point to kind of really trust each other. For him to be vulnerable and trusting in me, and for me to be able to know that I know that Nick is somebody who is so dedicated and cares so much about what he's putting out there, that he wants it to be great and he's going to make sure it is. And I love that about him. So yeah, that's really what it was. And I think I've always felt like I think that there's going to, he is part of the next phase, the next movement of young actors. I think he's going to, as much as he wants to do it, like I do think if he just like hangs up the music hat for a while and just like only acts, like I think he could have a crazy, amazing career. That'll be the challenge, is like the balance for him. Um, but yeah, anyway, no, I'm so happy people are going to get to see him in this way. It's different. And I think his fans are going to be like, whoa, like, oh my goodness. Like, I mean, I knew he was great, but holy, this is insane.
Yeah, it just makes you want more from him. Like he did a great job. So I'm glad you decided to put him in this film.
Thank
I
you.
have to say, now you can say that you have Elizabeth Shue in your film. How does that feel to be able to say that to people?
It's
Because I'm
crazy.
sure you grew up, obviously a big fan of hers, and the same here.
I've always been a big fan of hers, and we've become friends. And she's like, I'm always just like, Elizabeth, you need to be in movies like every year, and there needs to be like movies you're just always doing because you're just so good. And yeah, I mean, she has so much to offer. Her talents are so clear with what she brings to her projects, and so I'm just excited to see her as everybody. I just love that they're all doing such cool things. But yeah, I mean, to be able to say I work with Elizabeth Shue is like a huge, like amazing thing for me as a filmmaker. And I think also, you're always learning how to work. The job of the director is really to help to work with the actors and get the best performances out of them. And I think this is always a learning experience. And like when you work with such great seasoned actors, such hardworking actors, you learn so much from your actors. So I take that into the next project. But yeah, no, I love where I would love work with her again and again and again.
Yeah, no, it was great to see her again. I'm definitely a big fan of David Arquette. When I spoke to him, I told him, his performance, his character is someone like you're supposed to hate, like you mentioned, but like you kind of feel for him and understand where he's coming from. Definitely a complex character. Uh, he brought some of his own like ad libbing too. I know I spoke to him and he kind of had his own backstory in his head. But what was your vision for his character? Because his character was actually one of the many highlights of the film. But I just also love it how he kind of becomes more likable for some reason, and that's obviously
Yeah.
on purpose.
Yeah, I felt what's real is when someone's going through cancer or a form of an illness where their body's changing in terms of their energy levels or their ability to just be who they were in a relationship or in a family, it can go different ways, like a husband or a wife, who are your partner in that, going through that experience. I think at times you hear stories of somebody like really being very dedicated to that, being really there for somebody, and then somebody pulling away because it's just too hard. They just don't know how to find it in themselves to be what that person needs them to be. And I think so that's real. And I think the backstory in my mind is like, Darren is such a likable character, the Matt Walsh character, and you always go like, why did she leave this guy, or why did they divorce? That came up sometimes in conversation, and sometimes you just meet someone at meet the right person at the wrong time. Like Matt Walsh, for me, for Elizabeth, was like they got married young, or they had like the Lee character, the Brittany Snow character, when they were young, and they got married, and then they're good friends. Like they're just great friends. They maintain their friendship. And but it wasn't like the romance, the excitement wasn't there. It just kind of fizzled out because it was just more of like a friendship and a comfort. It was too comfortable. Then she met a guy who was maybe like younger than her, a little bit younger, or like a little bit more a different world that she was familiar with. And it was exciting. That was Rick. That was the David Arquette character. And it was like a little exciting, and maybe it was wrong for her, but like everything was saying don't do this, but she did. And then she was in it and she couldn't get out of it. She was just in it for too long, where you just find yourself stuck in it. And maybe she knew it wasn't right, but what am I going to do? I can't just start all over again. That's the conversation she has with Nick. So I thought, yeah, like I love, Rick pulling up in like the Mazda Miata and like blasting music and going to get like a smoothie or whatever. Like he's just so not aware of himself. And I thought that was an interesting type of way to do that character. But he's not like this evil guy, but he's just like doesn't get it. And that can happen. And also the whole story is that he just wasn't there as she was getting like chemo and stuff. And that's real. That happens to a lot of people. So that was his process. And Ren has his process too, of like maybe not being there too as much as he wanted. So yeah, I think that was the backstory. It was like just sort of this Rick's going through sort of midlife crisis-y thing. We put like a workout machine in the middle of his living room. That was like a choice. Like we wanted him to just like, you know, suddenly trying to get like fit all of a sudden in his life and like get, you know, be attractive to people again and like get back out there. And yeah, he's got all these like, you know, health things he's on. I think in the kitchen, he's got all these like vitamins and like juices and things. So it's like that was the backstory, you know?
I love it. That's great insight right there. Because, you know, the dynamic between Nick and David's character, I mean, I think some of the best scenes are between them because it's also offers some comedic moments too. And that's what I love about this film. Really dark, you know, topic, but also a lot of light moments. Can you talk about your process of balancing the humor, some of the best humor I've seen in a film, to be honest, surrounding such dark moments?
Yeah, I mean, I musically, I a lot of my songs I write are usually sometimes taking like happy sounding melodies and pairing them with like lyrics that are a little bit downer, like about a breakup, but it sounds like uplifting. So it's like it's the juxtaposition of like the two sides meeting. Where do they meet? So I've always found that to be always very interesting. I also have talked about this. So I love John Hughes very much. I grew up. I'm the youngest of my family, but I had older siblings that would like play me John Hughes movies in the '80s growing up. I was like too young to really fully. I wasn't the audience, but I just like loved them.
I'm the same way. I'm born '89, and I love '80s music, and I love John Hughes films. But I was born '89, so I definitely understand. Yeah.
So just something about it, I just like really love and connect to. It just really strikes a chord for me, musically, style wise. So I think this movie has maybe it's like my own version of like what that would be. It's like got, you know, you push and pull. It's like a little heavier here. It's a little bit lighter here. It's a little bit ridiculous here. It's a little bit more honest here. It's like a mixed bag. And I think that's what grief really is, actually. If you strip it all back, that is sort of what grief is. And I think, but a lot of music and a lot of things that like give it an identity. So yeah, but I think for me, it was the trick would be balancing, walking the tightrope of how to balance heart and comedy. And I think that was the trick. And I think sometimes the most effective ways to communicate something heavy is through comedy. And I thought that would be a very effective way to tell this story as opposed to just like the heavy drama. I call it a tragic comedy, you know. I don't even know, drama is tough even to use. There's dramatic moments, but it's not really even a drama. So
no, especially if you have a lot of comedic scenes trying to pick out a casket. Some of my
yeah, that whole shopping scene, it's like it's just so it's also it's real, but it's like so crazy that being in that room, that was a real casket room. And seeing like the choices for this and that, I was like, this is so bizarre. Like it's just you like people go through this, but it's just so weird. Like this is what it leads to. So
yeah, and I saw like David about the one with the flames. I'm like, Kiss has their casket too, so like that's not far off. That exists.
That's right. I didn't realize that. That's crazy.
So it's great. Finally, I have to ask, if you had to describe the good half in just 3 words, what would they be?
I just did this, oh man, and I struggled. I paused for so long.
Or 4 words. Give it a catchphrase.
Yeah. Well, family was one of the words because family is just everything, you know. So it's family. I mean, this movie.
I like that. Family is everything. I like that though.
Family is everything. Yeah, I mean, transformation. Honest, you know, just I mean, love, family, transformation, and confusion. Because I just think it's just such a confusing thing. I mean, I did, yeah, having lost someone, my dad, it's just confusing. It's just so weird. It's just all so strange, but it's always going to be confusing too. Anyone's listening is lost. It's just confusing. It's like a weird dream. It's like there's an alternate reality. Losing someone is like, you just like stepped into another like universe or reality. And you're like, now I'm living in this one. So it's strange.
No, that's a great way to put it. Before we do go, I want to know what's next for you because I'm super excited for what you've already been delivering. And with this film, I'm really excited to see what you deliver next for us.
Yeah, next, I'm just trying. There's different projects I'm like exploring. I think the biggest thing is a change of tone and style. Like, I'd like to do a shift. Like, I'd like to. I've done a lot of character-driven, like ensemble, like dialogue heavy kind of movies. I'd like to jump into something a little different, like maybe a different genre, experiment with like genre. Um, yeah, just like throwing, it's like when you go to the gym every day, you have to throw new things at your body to adapt to the next thing. So creatively, it's like throwing something different at myself to try to build new muscles. So
Well, I'll be waiting to see that for sure. And we can talk about that because with the good half, I feel like you're getting going. I think like this is going to
thank you.
rejuvenate everything you're doing. And
Well, thank you.
especially with such a great product, I'm like super excited for the rest of your career.
Thank you so much. It means a lot. I appreciate that. Thank you for your time.
Once again, this is Sean Taj, the mayor of Nerdtropolis, and stay tuned for more movie news, reviews, interviews, and trailers.